Are you tweeting again?
We are officially live. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I'm here with the biggest panel that I have ever hosted with 5 guests, all from SPFBO or SPFBO, as we affectionately call it, Bookborn blog authors. So, for those who don't know what SPFBO is, before I introduce everybody who's on, like Eileen and Louise and everybody, but before we hop into everybody, SPFBO is a competition annually that's organized by Mark Lawrence. Thank you so much, Mark. Where 300 authors put in a book for consideration by 10 different blogs, and then so each of those blogs gets 30 of the books. And one by one, the books are whittled down until there's a winner. Some are knocked out pretty fast, which will be June 1st tomorrow. And some won't know till 5 months from now who made it past the first round, is what I've been told on previous panels. This is my first year. Hey, AF. Hey, everybody else. If you're on live, let us know if you're doing SPFBO, if you're a reader, if you're a writer who's lurking to see what this is like. And with that, welcome everybody on the panel. Why don't we go around? Louise, you can kick us off. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what kind of fantasy you write.
Well, I live in Maryland, just southeast of Washington, D.C., not too far from the Chesapeake Bay. So most of my books feature the Chesapeake Bay in one form or another. There are a lot of little towns that grew up there along railroad lines and stuff with amusement parks, and I kind of weave all that into my stories. The book that I submitted is called Edgar and the Flyboys, and it's kind of light fare. It's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, and we can get into more specifics later, but I'm not an epic fantasy writer. I tend to go for talking about the afterlife. I've created a little world there, and I've been writing for 13 years.
Wow.
Nice.
Yay. I was just saying before we went live that all of you guys, when I looked at who you were and I looked at your books, I felt similar to Matthew in that I felt like I'm a newbie compared to all of these people. And Eileen is the only person that I knew here before SPFBO. And Eileen, when I first started doing this journey, was like one of my inspirations. Like, look at everything Eileen's done. So I cannot believe that I'm on a live. I'm like fangirling out.
That's so funny. And we've tried to hook up with several podcasts and life's just been crazy, so we've never actually gotten there yet. So I'm really happy. When I saw this opportunity, I was like, yay, I get to meet Katherine in person. That's really cool. Oh, thank you. It's so funny. I meet so many authors and I tell them that they're my inspiration and they're like, oh my God, you're mine. And I'm like, I'm yours. And I think that it's such an amazing community, the indie community, where everybody gets to wrap their arms around each other and go on this journey together. And we all share readers and fans, and we get to know hundreds of people across the world, and it's absolutely fantastic.
Yes, I see the nerdy narrative is on. Thank you so much for joining. And that's one of the first ones you picked up for SPFBO. Yoo-hoo, Louise.
Nice.
Matthew, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what kind of fantasy you write?
Hi, everybody. I'm Matthew Zorich. I'm author of, I think we have props, so I'm author of Bastards of Liberty.
Congratulations on the bookstore placement, by the way.
Oh, thanks. This is my first fantasy novel. I've been messing around writing for a long time, but this is the one that kind of stuck. It took me, I think, anywhere from like 3 to 5 years to finally get it out. I'm based in Ohio, near Akron, and I'm just kind of excited to be around so many great writers, and I'm learning so much from everybody. So,
yes, and definitely glad to have you. Matthew was just sharing on Twitter earlier today that his SPFBO novel is in a bookstore, which is like a dream for a lot of us authors. So
yeah, that's my second bookstore, which is really cool. It's a goal to see mine on like Barnes and Noble shelf or something like that. So, my book is Grimdark meets epic fantasy. So, Grimdark is pretty much morally great characters and fairly grounded. So I do say epic fantasy because there are elves, there are dwarves, there are, magic in it, but anybody can die at any time. So
Don't get too attached.
Don't get too attached. Yeah.
That's what we call a fair game cast. Everybody's in the target line.
Yes.
But you don't kill people off just because they're everybody's favorites, do you? This is a George R. R. Martin reading.
Everybody's canon may die. Sorry.
Awesome.
I've already had a couple people complain, like, I can't believe you killed them. And I'm like, it's not, it's my book. Sorry.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
I shouldn't tell you then that I killed off Santa Claus in one of my books.
Oh, that's awesome. That is great.
I too have killed off Santa Claus in a short story.
This is awesome.
Well, we can tell who watched the Santa Claus movie when we were right here. Daniel,
I like Santa Claus too much. Yeah.
Sorry. What's the question?
Oh, I was just saying it's so good to have you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your books? It's so nice to meet you for the first time, too.
It's very nice to meet you. Thanks for having me on. I've primarily been an artist for the past like 20 years. I show in galleries and I make art all the time. But I also started writing my book, The Exile of Zanzibar, of which I do not have a copy because I'm at my studio, in 2005. And I taught myself to write by rewriting it substantially 8 times from start to finish. Instead of going ahead and writing a different book, I just loved the idea for this one so much that I wanted to get it right. It's only the last couple drafts that I thought I was really getting somewhere with. So I'm really happy to have some sense of closure and be able to move on to the next one in the series. It's epic, low fantasy, secondary world. It reads like historical fiction, except for the history is all made up. And it's about Bronze Age society that gets completely upended by the appearance in their midst of a woman from their own very far future.
Wow. I love
that sounds
the
so fun.
diversity of the
Thank
fantasy
you.
that got represented today. Yeah. Did you design your own cover since you're an artist?
Okay, so I am not a fantasy illustrator, so I commissioned Billy Norby, who is a painter friend of mine who is a fantasy illustrator, to do the painting, and then I did the design, and then I wound up doing a bunch of interior illustrations for the print editions. So if you get hard copy, you're going to have either 14 or 18 drawings of mine for the book.
Nice.
That's nice.
Thanks. It was a lot of fun. One of the reasons I'm excited to finish the second one now is because I want to keep on doing illustrations for them. So.
Wow. I realized
That's a great motivation to keep writing,
Right?
isn't it?
Right.
Oh, wow. That's incredible.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here, and SPFBO is really exciting. This is a whole world that I was not aware of. I have not been part of this community. I had a faint inkling that it existed, and I have been thrust into the middle of it, and everyone's just been great. So good luck to you all. I can't wait to read your books.
Everybody too.
Same thing. My TBR list is now a mountain, and it's crying. So Eileen, I was ecstatic to see your name in SPFBO this year. Also a tad intimidated to see your name in this year. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what kind of fantasy you write? And I love the headpiece, by the way.
Yeah, the horns need fixing. I have a couple of different sets, and these are not working that well, but I lost some. My name's Eileen Muller. I'm a New Zealander. My last name is Swiss because I ended up living in Switzerland for a while and bringing home a souvenir and ended up with a last name. So what was I going to say? My book is Anakesha's Dragon. And you might be able to see, it'll be backwards on the camera too, but you might be able to see behind me that if I just adjust the camera a bit, there's a bunch of books up there that I've written. So they're all up there. This series is called Riders of Fire Dragon Masters, and it's actually a prequel series to my Riders of Fire series, which is six books that are all complete. And they're all about exploring the bonds between dragons and riders, imprinting bonds and monsters and fighting against evil. But there are quite a few twists, and I'm probably going to give away spoilers if I tell you what my series is about. But like there are genetically engineered monsters that come through a world gate, but nobody realizes that until book 4 or 5. So there's all sorts of crazy stuff in my books that by trying to tell people about them, I end up ratting out the end of the story. So Anakisha's Dragon has been one of the most difficult blurbs for me to write. I've nailed all the blurbs in the rest of the series, but it is so hard to write this blurb because it's about 4 different characters and they all have different paths, and there's sort of 2 main stories, 3 of the characters interact, 1 doesn't, and I can't tell you anything about that character because he ends up I can't. I'm going to make spoilers. So it's like
spoiler free.
Writing the blurb was really hard because it was character based, but the whole series is plot driven because it's a sequel. It's a prequel to the 6 books that already exist. And if I had any advice for any author, I would say don't go writing prequels. Write sequels. They're much easier because prequels you have to take all the existing facts out of your existing books and try and jam them in the right order. And I've managed it. I'm nailing it, but it's a mission. So one thing about my books is I have multi points of view. So in my first series, there are over 50 points of view across the 6 books. And my readers, I get quite a few readers that say I don't really like multiple points of view, but they're sort of seamless. They all just, they merge in together and they work really well. And it took me a long time to discover why I do that. And it's because I'm just fascinated with every character. And I always want to show their point of view, and I always show some hidden information that nobody else can get that's only from their point of view that enhances the story and creates more tension. So I don't know how many, I'm up to 4 books in this series, and I don't know how many points of view I have, but I've got pictures of the main characters. So this is Anakisha, whose brother died. Brother was murdered, so she's become a feisty sort of, she's a member of the Nightwings. She goes out at night and goes and fights these people who she believes killed her brother, but she's not a very good judge of character. So one of the things in the story is that she has a crush on this guy who's quite abusive and he gaslights her, and I have readers say they get so frustrated they want to throw the book across the room because she can't see it. But I've seen so many examples of abuse in daily life around me and seen how people get hooked into the great qualities of these people who treat them badly. And I wanted to show that in the book. And then one of the other characters is Giddy, who's a mage. He's the only dragon mage in Dragon's Realm. And he's a young guy who has, that's cool that you like multi points of view. Yeah, well, you'll have fun with my books then. So Giddy is the only dragon mage, so he can mind meld or have telepathy with any dragon. But he's 13 or he's 12 when the book starts, and he just has this outrageous power and he keeps doing everything wrong. And there are some really disastrous results. And the other one is Will, who we can't actually give away who he becomes, but there's a spoiler. Who's a young boy in the marketplace trying to scrape up some money by sort of scamming people. He's got the gift of the gab and he does what he calls trading up. So he starts out with an orange and he'll end up with a really fancy pair of boots or something just by, talking to people, being friendly and helpful, and they all end up giving him stuff. But he plays, he goes gambling in a tavern to try and make some money and ends up being press ganged onto a pirate ship with his best friend with disastrous consequences. So, yeah. He ends up becoming a major antagonist. So there you go. I've given away my spoiler. So the whole series, the series switches from person to person through different books and various people in the books and up against each other. And basically it will end up going up to the night before Azara, which is my first book in my next series. So there's 9 books to come. I'm currently writing book 5. Anakisha's Dragon is sort of a mashup of all those stories, but it works really well. So I still have to nail the series blurb. It's something like, dragon riders and swashbuckling pirates and and mages with duplicitous mages with assassins in the background.
We'll make this simple. Whatever character you want in a fantasy, I have it.
Yeah, exactly. No elves, no orcs. We do have other monsters that come through the world gate a bit later in this series, but anyway, that's me.
So Michael, not last but definitely not least, I've been following your work since before SPFBO as well, so I was excited to see your name pop up. But tell us a little bit about yourself and what you write.
I'm so happy you saved me for last. I was completely not nervous, and now I'm then it's just slowly building, and I'm the nerves. What do I say? And I'm character driven, yes. Low fantasy, yes, that also. So thank you, everybody. You've helped me string this sentence together. The Price of Power, as seen here, is my book, and it is a grim, dark, low fantasy epic that's character-driven, and it's multi-POV. It's a pretty big book. I think it's like the 5th or 6th biggest book in the competition, which is kind of surprising to me.
How many words is it?
It's, yeah, there's an author. Who knows how many pages? It's 198,000 words.
Wow.
Okay, cool.
Pretty
So
long.
you're probably looking at 700 pages, 700.
I usually
book,
say
yeah.
it's a 750 plus pages, but it's in the 6x9 format. It's only like 475 or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of like Game of Thrones meets X-Men, or Cut Rate Joe Abercrombie meets a plot. If you've read the first Lost, you know what I'm talking about. But people call it grimdark. I don't know if I jive completely with the label, but I can also see how it would be grimdark. There's a lot of characters die, and there's some pretty gritty things that happen, some violence. It is heavily character driven, so heavy focus on characters. I myself am. Oh, and I just released this. It's free if you want to join the mailing list. It's called War Song. It's a prequel, Eileen. I did it. I wrote a prequel. I'm sorry, but sequels from here on for a while. It's The Price of Power is the first book in a 5-book series, and I'm currently working on book 2. I'm at about 190,000 words. So, and I'm discovering why a lot of authors have a hard time with their second book in a series. It's like, and shit, okay, how do I get through this? My solution is often to just present side characters, which I love, by the way. I would say the strength of my book, in my opinion, is like side characters, just because I feel like they give the world so much more depth and intrigue, and they really make it feel fully fleshed. Like every individual you come across is somebody, And as an author, it also gives you an option to bring somebody back. So there is that.
Kill somebody off.
Kill somebody off.
Yes, Matthew.
Although I don't like the Star Trek approach completely of like, hey, here's this character, they're gonna die. So I like to let some of them off the hook, and they went on to live a happy life as a baker or something. I myself
love
am.
the cover. Yeah, congrats.
Can
on
you
your
show us
cover
the cover
making
again?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, the cover.
Actually,
making
this
it into
book
the
so
nomination.
fast. You need to hold it up a little bit.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
I actually designed
Congrats,
this fun story. The first cover I got from the cover artist, I was actually livid. I was not happy. It's like he kind of ignored what I said, filled out in the thing. He even said I know you said white, but, and I feel like it was just kind of one of these hey, what do you think of this? I have this lying around. Anyway, so I got so mad, and I was like, in 20 minutes, I'm going to go, and I just put together, I got my daughter's hoodie, I got a blanket, I wrapped myself in it, I got my stepson's sword, and I stood like this. I was like, take a picture of me from behind. And then I had a lightsaber behind my back poking the cloak up, or the blanket, so it looked like a billowing cloak, and took that as a reference picture, threw it on Canva, put smoke and flames. I was like, do this. And he came back with what I currently have, which I really love. So he nailed it when I was like, do the thing I want. For anybody out there who's
publicize that photo, you have to stick that photo online. We want to see it.
I switched phones. I don't know where it went, but I do think it's on my email somewhere. So I will publicize it. You like that? I myself am. I've been wanting to write The Price of Power for over 22 years before I actually did it. It was one of those things where I always thought, one day when I'm done, nice. As a life coach, because I'm a corporate life coach, when I'm done with that, I'll write my book when I retire. And then I realized I had this pervasive thought constantly that's well, if I die, who's going to write my book? And I realized one day, nobody's going to write my book. Nobody will write your book, whoever you are listening, thinking the same thoughts I did. It was if you die, people will be like, oh, that's really sad. I loved him. I had this book. But they're not going to write it for you. And so I was like, well, shit, I better get on this. And so that was about 2 years ago, and now it's out, which is crazy to think about, honestly. Everyone here who's an author, it's can you believe sometimes that you wrote a whole book? I can't. But
and then trusted the world and put it out in public.
Yeah. It's there.
And then decided you were also a masochist. I feel like author and masochist kind of goes hand in hand, right?
Until you actually find your readers. And when you find people who love your work, that's sort of like it's like a full circle. Sure, you end up getting 1-star reviews and all sorts of other stuff, but actually finding those people who gel and love your work is just the most amazing sensation.
You found those? Really?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Eileen has found them.
I'm just kidding. I have some as well. That was supposed to be self-deprecating, but I realized that could have sounded like I was saying it to her. Not at all.
No, I knew you were
It was
joking.
aimed at me.
No. So one of the things that I think is interesting is even though everybody's genre is slightly different, is they're all character-driven stories. And for the people who've been following the panels this whole time, they know that I've been asking a question about characters in the books up until now. So like one night we talked about the heroes, one night we talked about the villains, one night we talked about the best friends, and we talked about the government and all of this stuff. And if you want to catch up on all of those, I've got a whole playlist of these that you can see on YouTube and go back to watch them.
I watched about 4 of them yesterday.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I was like, what is this about? I got to do my research.
Yeah.
So I got a curveball.
Mm-hmm.
The question tonight about your books is not going to be character based.
Okay, we're all ducking now.
Oh, man.
The question about your books tonight is to share one ordinary thing like food or holidays or clothes that's really special to the character in your book for some reason.
I've been thinking about this because I asked you yesterday what you were going to do. I'm like, there's nothing ordinary in my world.
And I think I was sort of inspired with this one because so many fantasy books, we overlook the everyday stuff. We overlook dinner. We overlook the holiday. We overlook where they stop to go to the bathroom when they're traveling to Mordor.
So when I wrote my first book, I had I think she's had like 4 Bram Stoker awards. Lee Murray now. So we used to be in a critique group together, and she was like, take out the toilet scenes. Nobody wants to know where they go to the toilet. And I was like, but it's part of life, and it always bugs me that these things never happen in fantasy books. They don't get, well, they might get food poisoning, but you don't see the everyday boring stuff. I do have one scene where I have a woman duck behind a bush, and that was it. But one of my teen betas were like, yes, we have a bathroom scene. But so like, it's because people want to see the extraordinary, but the ordinary makes up the fabric of your world. So I think I have 2 things, food things. I have like lemongrass and sweet potato soup that they eat a lot, and which we have kumara here, which is the most amazing vegetable. If you have ever not tried them, kumara sweet potato. It's a Māori name. And the other thing I have is suppleberry tea. Now, goodness knows what it tastes like, but they always drink suppleberry tea. There you go. That's pretty ordinary and boring. And because I've gone first, you guys are kind of come up with stuff that's way better.
Yes, who wants to volunteer next?
I've got there's one of my main character has something that she's trying to figure out through a good deal of the second half of the book, and winds up doing it by looking very carefully at the pocket change that she has in this country she's come to. I'm really interested in like the weird iconography on coins, and it's not until she actually notices what she's using for money that she solves the problem.
That's cool. I have golden dragon heads and golden eagles and all sorts of stuff like that in my world. And then someone travels to the deep south, to Metropoli, and discovers a whole different coin system and has to figure them all out. And don't ask me that off the top of my head because I wrote that one a couple of years back. I have to go research it when I get back to Metropoli in this book. Yeah.
So are we doing ordinary things or ordinary things that have like changed? I'll just say what mine is. So psychedelic drugs are play a prominent role in the magic spiritual system. You can do psychedelics in a YA. Just depends on how it affects them. But these, it's just a plant that grows on this specific mountain. And they call it God's Thorn, which has probably been used 100 times in other books, actually, now that I'm saying it out loud. But that is also boiled down into a brew that has doesn't give you the same psychedelic effect, but in small doses, it just gets you intoxicated. But then people also will jump over the wall around the mountain to mine and illegally sell the God's Thorn to people. And they have euphoria. It's kind of like all the psychedelic drugs mixed into one. There's like the euphoria of the MDMA mixed with the like hallucinations of mushrooms and acid and things like that. And it's like a normal drug, but then when somebody ascends the mountain, it becomes a much different experience where they get magic powers that relate to a source of suffering in their life. So I'm a coach and I have a master's degree in counseling. So I'm like very into the minutia of, well, if this is this person's like lifelong need, then how does it manifest as a superpower of some kind, that makes them effectively like an X-Men. So that's like taking psychedelic drugs and turning them into having them play a role in the fantasy world.
So we have a burning question about how much research you had to do into these drugs, but we won't ask that online.
Louise, how about you?
I'm a Kiwi, no filter.
Item, I guess, would be a guitar. My main character is a guy named Hamlin Russell, and he's an immortal. And when he died, he wasn't good enough to get in heaven, and he wasn't bad enough to go to hell. So he ended up in a purgatory-like place called the Way Station, and it's run like a business. And his job as a soul runner is to pick up souls at the moment of death and ferry the soul to heaven or hell. One of the souls that he's sent to pick up is the soul of Robert Johnson. I don't know if you're music lovers or not, but Robert Johnson is one of the greatest blues guitarists ever. And the fable about his life is that he made a deal with the devil.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
At the crossroads to be a great guitarist. So my soul runner, Hamlin Russell, he makes a deal with Robert Johnson that he'll give him a little extra time if he'll teach him to play the guitar. So that's one of many deals that Hamlin makes on the side. He's kind of a screw up.
I love that.
That sounds like fun.
Yes. And Matthew, how about you? What's something that might be ordinary that's special in your world?
I have a character, one of the Bastards of Liberty. His name's Angus, and he's a dwarf. And he's a short order cook. And he carries around, most people carry around on adventuring, swords and maces and axes. And he carries a cast iron skillet that he wears on his back. And both sides are sharpened to points. And he uses it like bludgeon weapons to defend himself and to help out one of the Ashburn siblings as they are attempting to get to their father. And you find out why he carries the pan constantly. And it has to do with how he got his name. Because, a name like Angus isn't a typical name for a dwarf or even a human being. And he goes by that name because of a specific reason. And you find out why he has the name and why he carries the pan. He used the pan to help escape from somewhere. I don't want to give away too much, but it's a pretty harrowing story within a story when you get into the book. So there's lots of POVs, there's lots of characters, and you can tell when you're reading the book, like there is a history behind these people. They existed before the book was, and if they're lucky, they'll exist after you finish the book, but you'll have to read to find out. So
awesome.
Katherine, I'm wondering if he was cooking Angus beef, but I'm not gonna go there.
You got to read to find out.
Oh no. Yes, I love when some dark fantasy authors get together. In the second book of my last series, the main character's trained her whole life as a warrior. She's cooking at a campfire and these people jump up and she's like, I got a skillet and I'm going to use it. I was just like, yes, now I have to read this book. Fellow skillet warriors. So if you're watching and any of these books piqued your interest, or you'd like to follow the authors and learn more about their work, all of their links and their book links are in the description box if you're watching on YouTube, or you can give them a follow up on Twitter. Laughing. There's also an entire list of Zach Argyle's blog of all the books that are participating in SPFBO this year. It is filterable by audiobook, by KU, so you can hop in and read some of these books. So I've made it my goal when I survive the editing busy season, which is June, to read through a lot of these that I have not read, which I think is like 220. I think is what I came down to, 220 something that I haven't read before SPFBO. Over the next year, I'd like to finish the rest of those out, but we'll see how that goes. What are you guys going to do? I know we're a little over time, so we'll keep it sort of brief, but what are you guys going to do the next?
Oh, let's keep going. Everybody want to keep going? We can keep going, right?
Poor Katherine probably needs to sleep. She's probably got another blog lined up after this, or another podcast.
So yeah, what's going on the next 5 months? Are you lurking, or as someone termed on an earlier panel, productive lurking, where I'm writing, but I'm also lurking?
Well, I have a book that's finished. It's also
Nice.
a fantasy book. The cover's done. It's edited. It's I'm just having someone format it now because I don't like to format things. And I'm also I also write historical fiction, so I have one of those that's probably half done. So it'll take me
Congratulations.
to finish that. I'm a very slow writer.
Does the book that you have in SPFBO, does Edgar Allan Poe an actual character in the book?
Yeah, so
He's on the cover. I was like, this is intriguing. I like Poe. So.
I never showed the cover. Here's the cover.
It is an awesome cover.
I can't.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah.
The premise is that this immortal Hamlin Russell, he's sent by his boss to Baltimore in the 1840s to pick up Edgar Allan Poe's soul and transport it into the afterlife. When he gets there, he finds out that Edgar's on the verge of writing a masterpiece. So goofy Hamlin says, "Finish, that's okay. I'll come back for you." And he does. He comes back 170 years later because he doesn't care. And Edgar Allan Poe is on a sinking island in the middle of Chesapeake. But what's weirder is he hasn't written a single word in all those years. America's greatest author, not a single word he's blocked. And that's a story. It turns out that Hamlin is going to have a big battle with the grandson of Pandora, of Pandora's box, who has Edgar Allan Poe's Dark Muse.
Wow.
So that's interesting. You've got a mix of sort of,
there's a lot of,
I was going to say, contemporary characters compared to mythology, and mythology. That's going to be an interesting read.
Yeah. So we drag in the 12th Angelic Corps and some demons, and we might take a trip to hell, and
that's a lot of fun. Nice.
Yeah, I think
Skillet would come in handy in hell, I think.
I think that's what this is all about. Is just kind of learning about 300 different authors and their worlds. It's really fun. It's like I saw that book cover and I'm like, this is an interesting cover. I want to know what that's about. And the more, when you look at that website that you provided, Katherine, you will fall, and all of a sudden your Amazon cart is full of 20 or 30. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I'll leave it up a second for people on Twitter.
And then
there you go.
Yeah. So
I keep wanting to know who designs everybody's covers. I want to make a list because some of them are just beautiful.
Yes,
they're all so different. I think I get used to, because mine are Dragon Rider adventures, I get used to a lot of the dragon covers and know some of the artists. And then I went and looked at SPFBO, when after the 40 minutes and all the covers were coming up, I was like, oh my goodness, they're all so disparate and so different, and all reach different corners of the market and appeal to different types of readers. So I think that's been really interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can pull up Zach's site on the screen so people can take a look. But while I'm doing that, Daniel, what are you going to do the next 5 months?
I tend to keep pretty busy drawing and painting, homeschooling. We've got a little kid who we've been teaching for a number of years now. And my book is coming out June 1st. So I have a lot of publicity to do and, rustling up reviews. I've got a few readings at bookstores. I've got it in 4 or 5 bookstores now, and I'm trying to get some more. I know it won't make a huge impact in terms of the book sales, but I like the idea of the book being in bookstores. So I've been in touch with a bunch of bookstores, and I'm following up. And I'm hoping that my anxiety about SPFBO will die down after a few weeks, and I can stop refreshing things. And I think probably I'll be working on Volume 2 after I get done with doing everything I can for Volume 1. So, yeah, that should cover the next 4 or 5 months. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, just quickly, how many times has everybody done SPFBO? This is my first.
My first.
The first.
I was in one other one, and I had a young adult book, and I got relegated to a blog that said at the top of the blog they hate young adult. They read half a chapter and said, "This is young adult," and threw it out. And I was gutted, and I was so embarrassed. And when I saw that you were going to ask that question, I was like, "No, I'm not going to tell anyone." But the thing is, there are so many different books that appeal to all sorts of different readers. So I'm hoping Bookborn like young adult fantasy. Otherwise, I'm out of here next week. So. But, I think that's what it's all about, isn't it? There are lots of different bloggers with lots of different tastes. And, it's all about finding the readers who like your stuff.
Yeah. Well, and what might not appeal to one person may actually be a strength, which is something I had to come to early because I'm newer compared to all the rest of you guys for my publishing. But really saying there is no such thing as a really bad review. For the most part, if somebody's like, I don't like this, somebody else might like that. And so
one of my readers compared Azara to Dragon Riders of Pern.
Oh,
and so I used that quote in an advertisement once, and this person, I got a 1-star review with a screen and a half, and I have a big screen of every reason why my world is not like Pern. And the thing that is similar to Pern is the sensation of flying and the bond you get with your dragon, the lifelong imprinting bond. But there was this whole list, in Pern the world is like this, and I had someone else just, and it just made me laugh because they had gone to so much trouble to tell me why it wasn't like Pern, which is fine. I wasn't trying to be Anne McCaffrey. But, everybody sees something different and has a different flavor or a different way of looking at things. So, yeah, it's about finding who likes your books.
And I did.
That's Zach's site. Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, there's all those different covers that are on Zach's site.
You have to scroll sideways because a bunch of them, they go sideways. Each one goes sideways. It's a carousel.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, you can scroll through.
Yeah, it goes through and then you see them all.
Beautiful.
I was lucky enough last year. I went to 20 Books Vegas to an author conference with 1,800 authors and got to meet Zach there, which was quite cool. There was a whole bunch of us that had been online and talked to each other, but not actually met each other. And we ended up with, I think, 170 people from indie fantasy addicts all at a restaurant.
Wow.
So, Matthew and Michael, before we hop off, what's coming up the next 5 months?
Michael, you want to go?
Sure. I don't have to be last again.
I'm George. I'm used to being last. So go ahead.
Oh, no. Oh, George. That's true.
Yeah.
So, the next 5 months are going to be great. I live in like Bend, Oregon, which is like a little vacation spot for little like Californians and stuff. It's really cool. There's lots of like rivers and hiking and stuff. So I'm going to try to do that instead of focusing on SPFBO too much. But it's funny. I feel like I'm like in it on the Twitter, like, active with everybody and stuff. And I'm engaged in some Discords, but I have no clue what's actually going on. And so we got on this call and you're like, oh yeah, people are getting cut tomorrow. And I'm like, I
didn't know about
idea.
that. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I didn't know it. I don't know what's going on.
Reading. Lots of reading.
And right now, it's never been a better time to be a writer, but as far as like having a TBR, there's never been a worse time to have a TBR because it is just, I'm like, man, I wish I read faster than like a book every 3 months because I'm a slow reader. And not like I'm like slow, but like, I don't know. I just don't make tons of time for reading, I guess. That's bad.
I think for me,
it happens when you start writing. Yeah.
I'm like spending all the time writing.
Yeah.
Well, I get a lot of story mechanisms from TV. Like I just pay attention to how the show I'm watching is being written and I really focus on what writing is occurring in the background, like how they're doing it and seeing the arcs of seasons and stuff of TV shows. And it's just like a faster medium. I know this is like the worst thing to be saying to like a bunch of readers. But it's so that I can produce novels faster, I swear. And then I'll be finishing, I have all my goals set, finish the Price of Power, book 2, which is tentatively named Graveyard for Heroes. Finish that by the end of June. You like
Nice.
that?
Yeah, I like that.
The cover is going to be sick too. I've got it already designed in my head. But
More blankets.
and then I'm going to finish a short story. Collection that's half. I just have to edit the second half, which will probably take me 2 weeks. And that's called Sing No Suns, Sing the Night, and that'll be coming out hopefully in the fall. But yeah, those are the big goals. Hopefully done with draft 2 of Graveyard for Heroes by the end of the summer as well would be really great. Probably not going to happen. SPFBO9's, I mean, hopefully we all make it out of our small groups and we can all celebrate on this on Katherine's amazing stream here in 5 months.
Yeah, check back in 5 months.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Yes. And Matthew, 5 months. What have you got going on?
So I've got 100,000 words into the follow-up to Bastards of Liberty. It's called Maiden of Storms. The goal is to get somewhere around where you are, Michael, which is over 150 to like 190,000 words. I think you top at like 200 and something, right? I want to get around there for the book, but and hopefully less than 3 to 5 years, because that's how long it took me for the first one. But it seems to be going a lot faster. I think I'm in that point where I'll probably be editing. Daniel, you kind of mentioned it. I'll probably edit my book about 10 times before I'm ready to give it to my editor and not be embarrassed by what I'm putting out to somebody else. And then I've got a YA horror novel partially written that I'd like to get to. It has a very young ghost in it, and I'm excited about getting that done. That'll be short. I think maybe 60 to 80,000 words, and that'll probably be written pretty quickly. But and then I have to plot out the third book for my trilogy. So that's what I'll be doing. And I'll be lurking on Twitter and Instagram mostly. That's where I live. I just jumped into Discord today. I have no idea what it is.
I don't know what that is either.
So I'll play in Discord for a little bit. But I mean, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter are like the top ones for me. I work 9 to 5. I got a real job. I'm not a real job, but that's my main job. This is if I could do it for a living, I would, but I have to do that too, right? Yeah.
Takes
Don't
time.
try to read. Don't try to read every comment on Discord. It's a lot of people making way too many posts. It's so much.
Good to know.
So much. Just pick and choose.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. This is all really fun, and it's great. I think a lot of people ask what questions you would give to new authors, and is find 1 or 2 authors that you can bounce ideas off, that you can complain to. And in this, being surrounded by so much greatness and so many authors, it's really helpful for at least me, and I think a lot of other people, of just learning, getting information, figuring out things. It's been such I could be gone tomorrow. I don't want to be gone tomorrow, but it's quite possible. But it's been such a great experience so far. So hopefully I'm here in a couple months too.
Absolutely. I wish all of you the best of luck. So I'm not in your blog. I'm in the Fantasy Book Critics blog this year, which is like, I know there's several great authors in there. And I'm in with The Vow That Twisted Fate this year, which is my epic fantasy, my debut.
Awesome.
Such a cool cover.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm actually getting a redesigned cover that should be done next month.
That's
Because
cool.
really, I feel like this cover gets picked up as YA mistakenly a lot, and then they
It looks a lot like YA. Yeah.
Oh, this is way too mature for YA. I was like, nowhere on the blurb or anything did I ever say this was YA. I don't know what gave that impression. But yeah, so I'm getting an updated cover, I think, to better reflect the maturity level of the book, more like the darkness that's in the book. Even though I do love that cover.
Well, you can share that. You can share that in my group if you like.
Oh, thank you.
When it comes out, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
YA seems to always have someone. It's like full facing. It's always full.
Right.
It's all about the character. Yeah,
Normal
actually,
epic
there's a whole lot
fantasy is
more.
like slightly, and then grimdark. Never. You don't see faces very often. Like
No,
you
you just see the back of people.
just a little bit. Yeah, it's like
Symbol covers,
That's the
yeah,
silhouette.
exactly.
Yeah.
Symbol covers are coming up a lot more though now in YA as well, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
I haven't told you what I was doing, but I'm aware that I always jump in and talk a lot. I'm quite spontaneous and yeah, sorry, it's just sort of me. But I've got some German translations launching for Azara and Dragon Hero and Dragon Rift, which I haven't uncovered or told anyone about. So you guys are the first people to know. Not that any of you read German, but and I'm writing Dragon Captain, which is sort of the follow-up to Dragon Pirate. So just going to hunt down the Dragon Pirate. So that's quite fun. And also I'm a part of a group called the Action Fantasy Book Club, and we have a free novel every month. So I've got to write my free novel for September, which is called Amethyst Dragon, and that will only be available to people who sign up for the Action Fantasy Book Club. So yeah, so that's sort of another fun thing to do.
Yeah, and
And
you're in the
I also
IFA
have
group, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm running Indie Fantasy Addicts is running a summer reading challenge where thousands of books get read over summer. And I'm sure a lot of them will be SPFBO9 books, because a lot of Indie Fantasy Addicts, if any of you want a link to the author group, just PM me on Facebook, send me a message, and I'll flick you a link to the author group. It's an amazing group of people, and they're all really supportive. But we're running a summer reading challenge, and that kicks off, I think sign-ups start today, and it kicks off in a couple of weeks, and then we all captaining teams of readers, and it's a lot of work, a lot of prizes, a lot of fun. So yeah, that's happening as well. I forgot about that. I hadn't forgotten, but I've forgotten to mention it. So
Yeah, it's like
so there's quite a lot coming up for me.
You can bet, because if you're watching as a reader, you get points and you get prizes at the end of this challenge for free. Like the challenge is free; there's no cost.
Yeah.
And so last year,
and we all sponsor.
Reader. And I'll share the link to the readers facing group.
That would be cool.
Every SPFBO book that I read, I will be getting points for all of your pages. So bring it on, Michael. I need those 700 pages.
Oh, please.
And then there are paperbacks.
Bummer. Yeah. Like,
there are paperbacks, and that's right, because I've forgotten we changed the system, didn't we? Originally it was a point per book, so people would read or point per story, so people would read an anthology and get like 50 points. But they changed it all now to reflect how many pages you're reading, so that it's sort of more fair across the board for people who read epic versus novellas. But all the authors sponsor, like we give away paperbacks, we give away all sorts of stuff, free ebooks and stuff at the end of the challenge. And also there are 6 different groups you can join. Mine are I've got to remember, Chaotic Chimeras. So that's who we are this year. And I think our hashtag is Chaos Party, something like that. And I'm with Andy Palico and Angel Hayes and Jeff Kahanek and another author's on board with us who's not as well known. So a lot of big epic and grimdark authors in there. And we all have a blast when we get together. So it should be loads of fun. So if you're a reader and you want to hop over to Indie Fantasy Addicts, feel free. And if you're an author, just PM me and I'll give you the author group. There's a lot of really cool stuff that goes on with authors behind the scenes here too.
Well, thank you all so much. I know we went way over on time, so thank you for bearing with us. But really, good luck to everybody on your books. I'm so excited to be among all of you. I feel like if our books don't make it past the first round, we've competed with the best, and that's the best way to go out. And if our books do make it past the first round, we've competed with the best, and that makes it worth even more. So this whole experience and just connecting with all of you guys has made every second a huge pleasure.
Thanks so much, Katherine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us,
Katherine. It's been wonderful to meet you online.
All right. Well, we'll chat with everybody later. If you're watching and you want to catch more, we have another 5-person panel coming on tomorrow from Philip Chase's blog. So you can subscribe to catch that. Check you all out next time, I guess. Bye.
Nice to meet you all.
Bye.
Good luck. Bye.